Welcome back, Just Frats followers. This is Ed Frats of Just Frats Sales Training, also known as the Godfather of Sales Training. Well, it's been a big week in sports. There's a lot going on in the business world of sales training that I've been doing. And so let's take care of a little housekeeping first before we jump right in. I've had a couple people ask me about certain things that are new to watching me on what I would cover and not cover. What I cover is a pretty big, wide variety of topics. Here's two things I'll never cover. I'll never cover religion, and we will never talk politics. And there's just so much of that out there already. Why would you want to tune in and hear more of that? So those are two things that I pretty much stay away. I'm not afraid of controversy, meaning Yankees versus the Red Sox and things like that, but I will not get into what you see on the news all day long. I try to give that a break. I want you to come here, have some laughs, we have a little fun, and also learn a little bit as far as sales and business techniques, things along those lines. I do cover a lot of things. It's up to the requests I get from emails and people who join here live that ask me different questions. But those are the two topics I stay away from. Also, being a sales trainer in front of a classroom of it could be sales leaders or salespeople. I never use foul language when I'm in front of a classroom. I'm not some kind of angel. I just think it's a professional thing to do. I also will always refrain from using foul language here. So those are a couple things that you could expect from joining when I'm on live and what you're going to hear of any of the replays. So if you have any questions about a particular topic that you would like for me to cover with sales training or business techniques, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll be glad to cover that topic. You can always email me with any kind of questions at ed@fratzt.com, ed@fratzt.com, FRATZED. It's in my profile. Shoot me an email. I'll be glad to reach out to you and discuss whatever you'd like to talk about. So let's talk a little bit about if you think I'm going to talk golf, I'm not. But congratulations to Tiger Woods. I think it was his 5th Masters victory. But what we're going to talk about is two teams in baseball who were probably favored to represent the American League in the World Series. The Red Sox and the Yankees. Right now, those two teams are terrible. Days that they pitch well, they don't hit. Days they hit well, they don't pitch. And then there's some days they don't do either one well. Well, it doesn't matter. When the Red Sox and Yankees get together, it doesn't matter who's in first and who's in last because they just can't stand each other. This rivalry I've been watching since I was a little kid. Back in the late 60s, the Yankees were terrible. I still rooted them on when they played the dreaded Red Sox. And tomorrow night, Yankees and Red Sox kick off a three-game series, and I can't wait. Both of them are out of the gate slow. So hopefully, with any luck, the Yankees could start turning their season around by taking, or even not even taking 2 out of 3, but hopefully sweeping the series. And boy, that could create some momentum to get out of this funk that they're in. And you know, we lost Severino. We thought we'd have him back by May 1st. That's not going to happen. Looks like July, beginning of July, when our shortstop will probably come back, Didi. We have another all-star that sounds like he might be out for a couple more months. That's Betances. So these injuries are starting to back up, and I know that their philosophy is next man up. But when their next man up is coming up from AA, AAA, you only can do that so many times. It's not the guy coming off the bench. It's the guy they're bringing up from the minor leagues. And I know some of those guys are really good, but they're in the minor leagues for a reason. So hopefully the Yankees could turn around with 12, 13 of their stars on the disabled list, that some of those guys start coming back. CC came back, pitched a gem on Saturday, so hopefully that will lead to something. But that's enough about baseball. Some of you have tuned in to talk a little bit about business. And I got a topic tonight that's very different. And it's if you follow me, I talk about prospecting for sales reps all the time. Their responsibility of setting appointments is a very difficult thing to do. It requires a strategy from phone calls to networking to sending out letters and working LinkedIn, and just keep giving your name out there and who you are and how you help companies. And now there's something new out there that I've struggled with on training, but I think it's a requirement on my behalf, and I'm looking for some feedback. If you watch this replay, to shoot me an email or just hit reply on the bottom and leave me a comment on what you think about this concept. The more research I've done on this, it's becoming more and more popular. It would never have been done 10, 15 years ago. And that's prospecting through text messaging. And I don't know how I feel about that. I know how to train it. I've started to train it to certain people who have the interest in doing it. But to reach out to business owners by telephone or by email, it's the common way of doing it. But there's this group of younger people, and yes, it's the millennial. So that I'm talking about, successful millennials have moved in because of their age. They're starting to take over positions in companies that they're decision makers. No, Jay, I do like millennials, and that's not a problem for me. It doesn't to me. It's a new age of decision makers are in place. They're business owners, they're decision makers, but they like to do business a certain way. And you could be in sales for a long time, fees. And that's the part that I'm discussing. It has nothing to do that I'm pro-millennial or anti-millennial. That's not where I'm going with it. It's just that this different age generation grew up in text messaging. You think about how text messaging is evolved. Let's talk about my archaic era that I lived through one time. That was called the fax machine. I knew sales reps that send faxes to prospect. Hi, my name is Jim. I'd like to come meet you. Well, fax machines are gone, and it is in text messaging. And there's a lot of salespeople out there say, I would never text message to try to set appointments. Well, if there's a large group of people out there, and welcome, Jay. Thank you for joining. There's a large group of people out there that would prefer to communicate text messaging. And that's where the dilemma is trying to teach this in such a way that you're showing respect to the person who's receiving this text. At the same time, it doesn't look like you're spamming a bunch of people, that you're sending out a whole bunch of text messages to 50 or 100 people. I missed the cutoff. It's just a different way, and it's like I said, I'm not anti-millennial, but there's a different philosophy in the way they do business, and the way they live life is a little bit different than when I grew up. And I grew up in the 60s and 70s. I was born in 62. So, but when I was selling in the 80s was different than when I was selling in the 90s. And when I started selling in the 90s and managing in the 90s, I had to change my ways on when we transitioned into 2000s. And now it's going on 2020. And as a trainer and also as managing over salespeople, if I don't go with the change of society, I'll be a has-been. And I have to, you always have to cater to what's required out of the business, what they're looking for. So reaching out through text messaging, I would do it very carefully and very strategically. I would not do it in a spamming way, meaning, hey, I have 100 cell phone numbers. Let me send out 100 different text messages. I think that's unprofessional. And I think that you probably won't get a lot of business that way. So you say, well, Ed, how do I figure out when to use text messaging? Well, the concept would be to do it very strategically. I would get business cards. I would walk into offices, ask if you could talk to the owner, get their business card, and I would learn about people on LinkedIn. Their profiles are up. After you've done some research and you made a phone call, you've left them shot them an email, I would send them a text. All right, in a very professional way, introduce. And you got to be brief, but bring value. It's not, and they're not looking for. Remember, it doesn't. I don't care who you are. Lengthy text messages, I almost delete them. If you take an email and put it in a text, I'm probably going to not read it. But here is a fact. That's why this is so powerful. 86% of text messages are read. That is a very high percentage. That's why I think there's an area of opportunity for salespeople to be able to meet business owners to set that appointment up. So if you just state quickly on who you are, who you're with, how you help companies, and you would like to meet with them to see if you could bring those same kind of results, and you state that in a short text, I think it could be very powerful if you strategically address the people who are going to receive these. All right. But if you arbitrarily find 100 cell phone numbers and just shot them out to business owners, heck, I wouldn't recommend that with any other prospecting technique. I wouldn't do that through email or letters. Everything I teach with prospecting has got to be strategically done. So the dilemma is out there, there's a certain age group. I would never text message to prospect. And I will say, well, why not? Well, I just think it's wrong. Well, what about the people who think it's right? And you'd be amazed at how many people out there in that same era were sending out faxes. And the same dilemma was back then. Should I send a fax out? Is that right? Is it ethical? And it took off, and a lot of people did it. And then because it was done so much, they had to create laws for it. You had to make sure that you weren't major corporations now are not allowed to spam through faxing. Okay, it's one of their rules and restrictions. So this way, with text messaging, you want to make sure that you do it right. Don't be disrespectful, and I'd give it a try. If 86% of them are being read, let me tell you, that's a lot higher percentage than emails that are being read that you send out to business owners. So to me, I think it's worth a try. I train it in class. I use it as, I always tell people whoever would like to use it. I don't force anyone to do it, but you'd be surprised. The younger people in class are all over it. And you'd be amazed at how many people are setting appointments using it. So if you think it's not meant for you, remember, you're not the recipient. You're trying to get that person in front of you. And if this is a technique that's going to work for a percentage of business owners and decision makers, I would strongly recommend for you to investigate it more and see how you could use it in your world of prospecting. I know it's a tough thing. I always ask people in class, who would prospect using text messaging? And most of the time, out of 15, 20 people, 2 hands go up, 3 hands go up. And yes, they're a little bit younger than the other people who didn't raise their hand. But I wouldn't look at it as an age thing. I would look at it as if business owners are reading your message, isn't that what counts? If business owners are going to set an appointment with you because you sent them a professional text message, wasn't that the goal? And what happens if you piss off an owner? How dare you send me a message on my phone? Isn't that the same thing if someone hung up on you? So there's a lot of rejection no matter what technique you use. I'm just saying, why don't you give it a shot if you're having problems? And if you'd like to know more on how to do it, please reach out to me. Shoot me an email. I'll give you a call, and we could talk more about if you'd like to have training regarding this topic. People have asked me, Ed, how do I get you? How do I get you to my company? We don't have sales trainers. Just reach out to your decision makers in your company. Have them get in touch with me, and I'll be glad to sit down to go over the 40, 50 different programs I have to work with different sales divisions and leadership. I'd be glad to. I travel all over the country, and I would love the opportunity to travel international. I have yet to do a class in it to be a so-called an international trainer, so I think that would be pretty cool. Even if it's Canada, the Bahamas, doesn't matter to me. And I would also look at as Hawaii. I would love that opportunity to come there too. So that's a little bit about the topic tonight. Should you prospect using text messaging? It's a crazy idea, but I know people out there is using it, and it's working. What about the beer? You saw the comment. I was going to talk beers tonight. I was curious. The beers, they're out there. All the craft beers. You go to these breweries, are just crazy amount of beers, and not a big fan about paying so much for some of these beers. And so I'm curious, what kind of beer do you drink? They say, listen, and I'm not talking about the craft beers. If you go to the store and say, I just want a 12-pack, sit down and watch a ball game over the weekend, or you're going to go grab a 6-pack, what are you grabbing? Don't tell me you're grabbing a 12-pack of craft beer out there. Okay? What kind of beer? You're going to go to the shelf and grab it. Now, I'm a pretty simple guy, and I got one right here. And my go-to beer is Pabst Blue Ribbon. All right? And yes, this is a tall boy. It's got 16 ounces in it. And you know what? It is late at night. It's after 5 o'clock. So I think it's time to have a cold one. So I'm a go-to guy. I'm a Pabst Blue Ribbon guy. And you know what Pabst is? It's just a beer. That's what they served in a saloon years ago. And they walked in and said, give me a beer. It was probably a Pabst. So that's all I got for you tonight. I really appreciate you following me. Please share this with your friends. Please hit the like button. And if you're new, please hit subscribe. I really appreciate it. Smash that bell. And I look forward to our next conversation. Have a great night.